Hi Capricorn, this is going to be your reading for the 1st of August through to the 7th of August, which would be the first week. And indeed, the overall energy talks about you having to be very frugal in the first week of August 2022. It does talk about you having to focus on material things and the desire to build something in your life. It talks about you building perhaps social power and affluence, okay? You are concerned about your financial security and your status throughout the whole month of August. It talks about you focusing on security, and you're not willing to take any risks with your life or with your belongings or with your situation. It does talk about needing to focus, stay close to home, save, take care of your things, and not engage in any immature risk-taking behavior. And this could have to do with perhaps, if you have a vehicle, don't drink and drive. Don't engage with people who are under the influence while you're doing an activity, okay? Be very vigilant about your health and your safety at this point in time. Now, be aware of this because it can go from one extreme to the other. It could be where you're turning stingy. You're basically getting stingy and you're hanging on to the money so tight that you're not providing for the little necessities of life that you need, okay? But it does talk about you being too tied down, maybe. Maybe you need to find a balance. So in this month, it's one thing to be frugal, but it's another thing to be a hoarder. So, maybe you're not living your life because you're concerned about finances. That is always difficult. I know. I've been there, done that. So in the first couple of days of the first week of August, okay, the card that comes up is the motherhood card, okay? And it's almost like you, either yourself or perhaps a mother figure to you, okay, was emulating this very strong motherhood, positive role model type of energy, okay? Or maybe this is what you're trying to do. Maybe what you're trying to do is show that side of you that's very caring, very nurturing, very protective, okay? So whether you be male, female, or other, okay? We all have a yin and yang. We all have a male energy and a female energy. In the Native community, they basically call that, I think it's two-spirited, right? So there may be a part of you that is trying to show those that you care about this very strong and nurturing energy, and that may be what's forcing you to become very frugal and very tight with your money in order to support those in your close energy or those in your family, okay? Now, it does talk about perhaps you having issues with a maternal figure in your life. So maybe you didn't have that maternal connection as you were growing up, and maybe you're trying to show a stronger connection to your children, whether you be male or female, okay? It does talk about you having this over-idealized image of marriage and romance, okay, and how a woman should be. So perhaps you're kind of like, maybe you were taught that you have to, when you're a female, you have to do things in a certain way. And now in society, you choose what you choose to emanate, okay, or emulate. You choose that. Do you choose to be the the type of mother that stays home and cooks and cleans and doesn't have a life outside the home, and whether you be male or female, okay? There's it's such it's so difficult sometimes to do readings because I have people say, well, I'm a male and I'm going through that right now. Well, yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the male energy and the female energy that come up in the cards, it doesn't have to be male or female. It could be male, female, other, whatever, okay? But the point is that perhaps you have an over-idealized image of what your nuclear family needs to be. Maybe you were raised in a very strict family. Maybe you were raised in a family where there were no rules and the communication was open. Or maybe it wasn't open, it was closed and it was forced, okay? So there's different ways that we grew up as children, and we try sometimes to emulate those, but other times we try to provide a different lifestyle for our children or our family. And that's the issue that you're taking at this point in time. That's what you're dealing with, is that perhaps you're trying to live up to everybody's expectations, or perhaps you're trying to live up to your own expectations, or you're trying to provide for those you care about a different way of life, okay? Now, I am concerned because the very next card that comes up deals with addictions. And it does talk about people in your circle of energy who possibly have addictions, okay? And it says, if you have any fear, if your intuition is telling you not to trust somebody, don't trust them. Get the hell out of there. Or go be close to somebody that you do trust, okay? So be very careful about this. But this could also be you. Maybe you're dealing with some type of addiction. It might be a behavior addiction. Maybe it's a behavioral problem that you have. Maybe it's a sexual addiction. Maybe it's a gambling addiction or a food addiction, okay? Or maybe you find solace in food. Maybe when you feel upset and you feel frustrated, you turn to food, or you turn to gambling, or you turn to sex, whatever it may be, okay? It does force you, not force you, but it encourages you to turn to whatever compulsion or addiction you have to find that sense of calmness. It's like, you know, when a kitten is taken away from its mother, and I'm dealing with this right now, I think, because my kitten was literally sucking on a soft blanket. So that kind of makes me think that the kitten was taken away from its mother too early. So it's trying to bring back that nurturing, that sense of security by suckling on a blanket. Okay, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Maybe what's taking place in your life is that you're compensating for the fact that you don't have or didn't have that nurturance as you were growing up, whether it be a maternal figure or a paternal figure. Okay, but you're trying to compensate for that that nurturance that you didn't get. Okay, now this could also be, you know, food addictions, okay? It could be food addictions. It could be when you feel lost or you feel frustrated, you turn to food, okay? So indeed, that's, you know, it's one or the other. There's a lot of addictions we can get into, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a material thing, okay? It could even be a personality conflict that you're dealing with inside, and that stems from a past history or past abuses, or perhaps even an addiction. Now, as you're moving into the latter 2 days of that first week, it does talk about a message coming in. It's a message from a friend, perhaps a very loyal friend, okay? Someone who's usually willing to help you out, an earth element sign. It's someone very detail-oriented, very single-focused at times, okay? But they do have a broader vision of the world, even though they focus on the minute details. They're able to take care of all the details, able to make plans and come up with plans, okay? Now, this could be a child that's communicating with you. This might even be a child of yours, okay? That's very, doesn't express themselves as well as they'd like to. Perhaps they're very emotional. Perhaps they become they cry a lot, or they can't deal with their emotions, or they feel like they almost feel like, sorry, I'm gonna get comfortable here. They almost feel like they're a non-entity. It's almost like they're missing a part of their life. They're missing a part of their sociability, okay? And, you know, a lot of times in single parent families, you will deal with this in single parent families. You'll have to deal with the fact that whether you be male or female, maybe you're a one parent family and you have to kind of suffice for both male and female energies, okay? And maybe there's a child that is dealing with those repercussions, that is dealing with the fact that, you know, at one time they had a mom and a dad, and now they only have maybe a dad or only maybe a mom, and so they're dealing with that lack of connection, okay? Now, it does talk about growth in relationships, which is a good thing, but it also talks about security issues, not feeling secure with a situation or a relationship, okay? Maybe a child in your life is giving you a communication saying, you know what, I don't feel like I belong here. I don't feel like I have a mom, or I don't feel like I have a dad. I don't have a connection to you anymore. I don't think you understand me, okay? And this might be the communication that you're getting. Maybe this child wants more opportunities to learn about themselves, to learn about the outer world, to have more opportunities, okay? To learn about the people in their life, to learn about the people that they feel perhaps are hidden from view, and maybe they want to learn about them, okay? Now, it does talk about delays and obstacles, and maybe even this child is dealing with delays and obstacles in being able to reinvent themselves, or being able to form a connection with a parental figure or a friend or a family, whatever it may be, okay? Maybe they feel isolated. And it does talk about this child having problems articulating what it is they need to find a balance in their life. But it also says, Capricorn, be aware, okay? Stress causes disease. I'm telling you this straight from the heart because I've been there. I've been there and done this. So pay attention to your body, because something may be in that early stage of development and you need to nick it now. You need to get it now. It does talk about turning to vitalism or herbalism, a special diet, a special health regime. Maybe you're going to have to seek a professional. Maybe you're going to have to get extra training. Maybe you're going to have to get extra help, okay? Maybe you're going to have to teach yourself some new skills. And indeed, I know this is quite possible to bring about, because I dealt with children who were ADHD, and they were put on a drug called Ritalin. And Ritalin, it works, it really does, but many times it brings the kid into a zombie-like state, okay? They're not the same active child they were. Now, I worked with a child when they were younger who was going to be held back in school because they said that the child needed Ritalin and that they were ADHD. I was of a different mindset. And so what I did is I worked with this child, okay, and what we did is we focused on diet, eliminating sugar, looking at the foods the child was eating, the trans fats, the sugar, the high carbs, okay, those type of things. And you know what? That child went from, I mean, they weren't even going to put him out of one class into another. Gender identity here. So they weren't going to put him into a class, the next class, okay? They were going to hold him back. And by the end of that season, that child was flourishing. And that child graduated with honors from, I believe it was high school. And so there is a way to take care of ADHD, all those type of things with diet, okay? There is a natural remedy for that. You don't have to go to drugs. I mean, drugs, certainly chemicals. I mean, the Ritalin, it would keep them calm enough to be able to learn, okay? But there are other ways. There are other ways, and many children nowadays are thrown into a situation where there's so many students and so little teachers. So this child in particular thrived on that one-to-one, okay? And so it worked for them. And then many years later, I worked with an adult student who was, basically taking grade 1 level school. And they were quite capable of taking a higher grade. And we focused one-on-one, and that child, that adult, it was an adult who was dealing with some health issues. And so what they did is they kept him back. They kept this child back in their grades. And I focused on them, and we did one-to-one correspondence, and that child graduated grade 12 at the appropriate time for their age, okay? So this is what I'm saying. There is always a way. Focus on diet, focus on health, focus on mind, body, and spirit, okay? And it works. And if you have a child that you have to deal with that has those issues, and you're either mom, father, whatever it may be, grandparent, grandmother, and you're taking the time to focus on their issues, look at their health, okay? Up their magnesium, make sure they're taking omega-3s, make sure they're taking their B vitamins, B1 especially for stress. And children who have ADHD, they have that stress because they have so many thoughts going back and forth in their head that they need to focus more, but it's because of their lack of the nutrients that they need to be able to focus. Research it. Don't have to take my word for it, research it. I'm a tarot card reader, not a doctor, not a nurse, but this is stuff that I worked with back in my history as a young woman when I worked in the social field. So just giving you some tidbits of information because not everything is set in stone. Things can change. So I shall see you in that second week. Namaste.